January 14, 2022 Luang Phosri Suriya Khemarato Satya Dharma Reflection. This is not about practicing for attainment, maintaining the mind for attainment. This is not about seeing, knowing, and looking for attainment. How can there be grasping for the anicca? The grasping itself is the anicca. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself. Therefore, the only behaviors which is not going to create pitfalls is about giving. Forming up to give, then it will not create pitfalls. It will be the behaviors that dissolve the delusive attachment habits. That's all. Pouring water as blessing is also a performance of giving. All the works with the dedication to give will not create pitfalls. Works is also about giving. When we dedicate for the community, is also a giving. All behaviors are compromised as to perform giving or dedicating for helping the community, then it will not create pitfalls. A Vietnamese monk who came from Myanmar once entered the temple. He felt so lightened up. Previously was filled with stuff in the brain. Don't maintain internally or externally. Uninvolved even within the unvolved itself, so that it will be unwinding, discharge itself externally, internally. This is not about maintaining, looking, seeing and knowing internally or externally. The more maintaining, the more is blocking the suffering, retaining the anicca and dukkha is gonna be insufferable instantly, immediately. No attach, even to the non-attachment itself. The non-attachment doesn't grasp itself. Uninvolved with the non-attachment itself. That is, unwinding discards itself. All the stillness or indifference is the blockage. It is suppression. Non-attached even to the non-attachment itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Releasing without obtaining itself. It discards itself. This is not wrong to the anicca. To maintain, to sink in anything, it will be wrong to the anicca. It's suppression. Even stillness is also a suppression. Indifference or ordinariness is also a suppression. Uninvolved even within the unvolved itself only. Without a well conclusion, they will just circling within, sinking and maintaining here and there, on and on, clinging to this and that, on and on. Eventually, the stillness is the hindrance itself, is an obstruction itself. It's always retaining and suppressing, on and on. Stillness is not the way, Mai only, non-attached, uninvolved with the non-attachment only. If you can release from the stillness, the samsara that is still in the stillness will also be unwind from it. If we can release and unwind from the stillness without taking in the unwinding, samsara will also unwind accordingly. All groups of beings will be unwound accordingly. If you enable to not grasp the unwinding, discard the unwinding, then samsara will entirely follow in the same way, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. If we can release from the habits within Dharma, it can help samsara in the same way. The Dharma or the worldly ways are habitual patterns. The word habitual patterns is the habits of clinging, of fixation, of the delusive attachment, attempting to maintain, to sustain its habit. It can be done within the worldly or Dharma. It's a habit which can be done within the worldly ways or within the Dharma way, or the maintaining and sinking within itself. If you can discard the releasing, the unwinding from the maintaining and the sustaining, it can help samsara. Whether it's worldly or Dharma, it's still samsara. There is no need to discriminate whether it is Dharma or worldly, because both are samsara. They are still involved within themselves. The world or Dharma is anicca and anatta. The sitting position of the audience who has a conversation with Luang Po has been in the way that Luang Po has to turn the head to her. Therefore, Luang Po said, if she wants the next life to be born with tilted head, just continue to sit like that. If not, just move your chair. Involved with the non-attachment itself, so that non-attachment will not become stillness, indifference, or meditative power or concentration. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. This is the mantra of Nirodha and Nibbana. Do you know mantra? Luang Po asked the Chinese translator. Whatever they chant, that's the mantra. All that they chant are the mantra that they chant. They recite mantras. Mantras of Nirodha and Nibbana. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. No attached even to the non-attachment itself. Therefore, we must diligently pray the mantras of Nirodha and Nibbana. Otherwise, you'll be blocked by one's own karmic difficulties of the stillness or whatever. The delusive attachment will block you. The upatan of samsara will mix with yours together, not just your own karmic difficulties of the upatan. Is linking or the maintaining that is in the same way, sinking in the same way. It will link to one another. The same root of family, of karma, will tune into each other. It's a massive karma, massive suffering. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, well with it. No attached to even the non-attachment itself. How are you going to Tibet if you're going there? How to go? How are you going to bless there? Blessing Tibet, you need to be without traces. Only without traces. She feels that there's a lot of supernatural power. They are attached to the taba, power of perseverance, extremely. Luang Por said because it's so cold, therefore they have to maintain the taba. So if you bless Tibet, you need to be without traces only. No attach, even to the non-attachment itself. Don't use the mind. Don't use the mind. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself only. Don't grasp the non-attachment. Don't use the mind so that it can purify the taba. The place is in the high plane. Therefore, they have a lot of taba. No attach to even the non-attachment itself, bear with it. Discard the unwinding itself without obtaining the unwinding itself. Don't be limited with just non-attachment. It will fall into taba. Those who maintain taba, attached to taba, cannot listen to just mind or non-attachment because it will fall into the same old patterns of thinking and maintaining within the mind. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. If giving significance and meanings and involvements, it will create Vedana, insufferable, instantly. If giving meanings and significance and involvement to the suffering, it will create inseparable, totally. With everything, it's like that. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, well with it. If you are unconsciously falling into stillness, even a tiny bit, it will create insufferable right away. Widen out to the utmost. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, absolutely. In the way that is brightening, in the way that is light, in the way that is widening out. Just like brightening without obtaining it, automatically it will be as such. in a way that is not grasping the opening or the widening. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, even the awakening and the brightening will not grasp itself. It will purify the sunken state very well. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself constantly, with the mantra of the brightness. A tiny bit of maintaining will be released and dissolved instantly. All the same among each of us. Once you sit all the same, in the same posture, it's like instantly, immediately falling in the sunken state. You have to use extreme power to dissolve your posture of sitting because there's immediate sunken state. Just like something clinging at the back of Luang Po. This kind of looking, seeing with determination, with projecting mind. Luckily, Luang Po have overcoat. Therefore, the clinging is only right there. Thinking in seeing and knowing, actually. Therefore, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, constantly, remind oneself constantly. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, constantly. It will purify the maintaining of seeing and knowing, because the clinging is right there. In the seeing and knowing, clinging is right there. Whatever you see, whatever you know. We have to confront each other like this so that it can destroy each one's defilements or whatever. But everyone has interest in Dharma. Give importance to the Dharma. This interest itself is the troublemaker one. The interest is firm attachments. Uninvolved, even the uninvolved itself constantly. Remind oneself with these sentences more often. It will purify the maintaining in seeing and knowing. Otherwise, the seeing and knowing will always clinging. This will create Vedana and Nirodh, hindrances and obstruction. Remind oneself constantly to purify to the uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, no attached to even the non-attachment itself. During the time in Tibet, Luang Po taught only about awakening and brightening. Therefore, there's a lot of people who awaken out, full of trouble, big suffering. Luang Po taught them, but there was the plong, which is dispersing. It's the dispersal. If those who don't know how to plong, then they will just create cluster maintaining of the mind. It doesn't work. If plong maintaining itself, it doesn't release itself, its state. So this period of time, we just have to uninvolve even within the uninvolved itself simultaneously with awakening and brightening and plong. No attached to even the non-attachment itself, simultaneously with awakening and plong. At that time, there was a lot of power of taba, Contact or perception is the suffering. In sensory perception is seeing, knowing, looking, is full of Vedana. Therefore, the uninvolved with the non-attachment will purify the attempt to do well within seeing and knowing, so that there will be no delusion in seeing and knowing. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, will purify the delusion within the sensory perceptions. The delusion to maintain, to sink, because maintaining of suffering, sinking in suffering, right? Maintaining in suffering, sinking in suffering. Everything is all about suffering. If you maintain it, all the states of mind is anityang, tukkhang, and anatta. If you maintain it, seeing and knowing, if you maintain it, it will become maintaining of suffering, because you maintain something that doesn't maintain itself. Seeing and knowing is the suffering in itself, is the tukkhang in itself. Maintaining the seeing and the knowing is like maintaining the suffering. Therefore, it continues in such a way with suffering. And using knowing to break samsara is gonna create suffering altogether. Using knower and seer with samsara is gonna create suffering altogether with samsara. We cannot use anything else other than not attached to even the non-attachment itself. This is purification of extinction and emptiness. What else are you going to use? Stillness is like a prolonging suffering. It's like fermentation of suffering. Just like you are in the jar of the suffering. Fermentation of suffering. Sinking in stillness too long is fermentation of suffering. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, it will not be about anything within stillness or not. Right now it's lighten up a bit more. We have to face each other. Luang Por's Anupap or mighty force will clear out everything completely. Only clearing. Luang Por mentioned about when sitting on the airplane. If sitting at the front, it seems like there's a lot of mind projecting towards him. The same as on the bus. So it's better to sit at the back of the bus or the plane, so that the front will be cleared out completely by the mighty force from Luang Por. Luang Por is teasing one of the monks. Please invite Luang Por. Luang Por hasn't come yet. You're waiting so long for him. Luang Por calling his title Palat. Today, Luang Por has invited the mighty force of the Arahants to help cover up the whole area in the temple. anyone who remind oneself regarding the essence, they will have the same anupap as the arahants. It's the same force. Everywhere will be the same. If they remind themselves with the sentence of uninvolved, even within the unvolved itself, it's the same anupap as the arahants, the enlightened ones, except that they use other thinking. They will just on their own ways of thinking. If they remind themselves with the sentence, no attach, even to the non-attachment itself, they will have the same mighty force as all other blessers. The anupap of the non-attachment itself. In Vietnam, there is one family who don't deal with the COVID at all. Even they are contagious with COVID in the whole family. Only one person that is not. They only listen to Luang Por's Dharma, Phosri, and bless only. Pour water blessing only. The whole family defilement is killed. Not the whole family is killed. COVID-19 cannot do anything with them at all through the blessing. They didn't even go to hospital. No attach, even to the non-attachment itself can resist, can protect. It's the anupap, it's the mighty force of the arahants. They are very decisive. They don't take even vaccination, just non-attached, pouring blessing water. Like this, no medicine can be sold. Every time that you use the essence of no attach, even the non-attachment itself, it cuts off emotions. It cuts off the receiver of karma. It cuts off the creation of karma through the purification of extinction and emptiness. It purifies through the extinction and the emptiness for the sensory perceptions. All the senses will be purified. If you absolute purify with the non-attached to even the non-attachment itself, it cuts off all the connections within and without to the sensory perceptions. The internal perception the involvement with feelings, thoughts, recall, emotions. This is called sensory perception internally, and the rest is external. The essence of no attach, even the non-attachment itself, we cut off all this relation to the external and the internal. Keep opening. Keep your eyes, your ears opening. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, all sensitive perceptions, all channels of the senses. Keep on with awakening, keep on with opening. Within all these senses, there's the awakening that exists. So keep on opening it, but conclude to purify it with the essence of uninvolved, even within the uninvolved self, no attached to even the non-attachment itself. It is automatic blessing. Stillness is like a sunken state, maintaining suffering. Uninvolved with being still or not, uninvolved even within uninvolved itself, remind oneself constantly, uninvolved even within uninvolved itself, will purify within the uninvolved itself. Don't fall in stillness or indifference or ordinary, because it's a sunken state. Sinking in suffering and Vedana, even ordinariness, is not itself. Why not stuck with just inordinary? Even know is not know itself. Uninvolved, even the uninvolved itself, well with this essence. It will turn into purification of extinction and emptiness automatically, well with this essence. No attach, even to the non-attachment itself. Diligently remind oneself with this sentence, so that you will not hiding within stillness or indifference or anywhere, or even in the ordinariness, or even feeling comfortable. Just purify completely, so that the delusive attachment will not hide anywhere. Non-attached, even to the non-attachment itself, constantly. Non-attachment is not itself. Remind oneself constantly. That's the mantra of Nirodha and Nibbana. Each sentences that have been given to you. Whenever time that you remind yourself, there will be purification immediately. Purification is automatic. Unwinding discards itself. It will cut off the relation internally and externally. Don't make friend with her. She ends all her friendship within herself already. If you can make friend with anyone, or even within yourself, it's a danger, because it is the suffering. There's only suffering, association with suffering. The Arahants, 100 of them, seems like no one is there. The Arahants, when they smile, when they look, when they see, it's just like that. They have no association with anything. Hung Lei said, the Arahants have no mind, have no heart. That's the Wordling say. Purification of extinction and emptiness is not about relationship. It's not about association. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, will purify all the senses, all the contacts, all the connections. It purifies beingness of worldlings. The worldlings of Putuchon means senses, clashes, contacts. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved self, will purify the habits of the worldlings, the habits of connection, the habits of sensory perception within oneself, within samsara. Involvements within oneself, within all things will be purified. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, instantly. Why make friend with anyone, even oneself? You cannot make it because it's suffering. Non-attached, even within oneself, not even just all other things, because whenever you associate with anything, even oneself, there is suffering. Non-attached, even to the non-attachment itself, cut off all association within oneself and all things. Purify the habits of the worldlings, discard them, abandon them right away. Uninvolved, even with the uninvolved itself, instantly. Non-attached, even to the non-attachment itself. Non-attachment purifies itself. Otherwise, there will be one's own stuff all the time. All the karmic difficulties of thoughts, of feelings, thoughts, emotions, uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself. Remind oneself with this sentence, because there will be purification at every time that you remind yourself. This mantra is sacred by Nirodha and Nibbana, by the cut off, by the ending that is given by this mantra. Once you remind yourself with the sentences of the essence, it's like you are chanting this mantra of Nirodha and Nibbana. If you think of everything else, there will be no purification. Every time that you remind yourself with the essence of uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, there is an immediate purification of the extinction and emptiness. That's called people of the civilization. It's not our fellow or their fellow. It's the people from the civilization. They don't involve with significance and meanings. They don't have discrimination. It's not about anything and anything. Luang Po asked, when did you wake up? The nun said, 3 a.m. in the morning. Luang Po said, oh, you didn't wake up when you awakened? Beware of the composed of the mind, because it's the concentration of suffering. Even mind, even non-attachment has nothing to do with itself. How can you compose the anicca? How can you compose the suffering? Everything is the suffering. How can you compose the anatta? It's wrong to the Satyadharma. Even non-attachment has nothing to do with itself. Even the uninvolved is not involved with itself. How can there be stillness? How can there be a composed of the mind? What is there to be made stillness? Anicca discards itself. When you still, when you are falling in stillness, it's like it's suppressed, waiting for the explosion only. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, well with it, well with it. Disregard, even the disregard itself, well with it. Whenever time that you remind yourself with these sentences, the unwinding is right there at that moment. Unwinding discards itself right then. Just like flowers discards its blossoming state. It doesn't obtain itself. It discards itself. Every flower, each flower discards its blossom state. Unwinding discards itself. Unwinding doesn't obtain itself. Maintaining and composing the mind is the delusive attachment habits. The habits of clinging and fixation is the fake habits. It's alienated. It's the habits of the samudaya. Significance and meanings and involvement is the habits of the samudaya. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself. This is not habits. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, is not habits. If being obsessed with significance and meanings and involvement is only about habits. Disregard, even the disregard itself, so that it will purify all habits. Then it will be the people from civilization, not our fellows or their fellows. This is the period of selection already, huh? Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, constantly. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, instantly. Remind oneself to make a conclusion towards ending, to purify constantly. All the karmic difficulties of the karmic traits and habits will be gradually dissolved automatically. Purify together with seeing, knowing, listening, hearing, seeing, looking, knowing. Purify through the extinction simultaneously. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself. Purify through the emptiness together with seeing and knowing. This is not practicing seeing and knowing. Purify through the emptiness simultaneously with seeing and knowing that is already there. Purify through the emptiness instantly with seeing and knowing. This is not being obsessed to practice seeing and knowing on and on. Disregard, even the disregard itself simultaneously with seeing and knowing, so that the emptiness and extinction will purify simultaneously with seeing and knowing all together. Disregard, even the disregard itself, do you know that it doesn't associate with oneself, with itself? It is not associated with itself. So then it will be the great compassion, helping to give ending for samsara truly, helping to give ending for the beings truly. Disregard, even the disregard itself, do you know that it has no association even with itself? There is only an extinction and emptiness that purifies. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, do you know that it's not involved even with itself? Not just with samsara, but neither is it with oneself. It's not involved even with itself. Why is it so? Because the uninvolved is not involved even with itself. Because uninvolved is even within itself. Disregard, even the disregard itself. Extinction purifies all the relations, purifying, seeing and knowing simultaneously. Never mind. Disregard, even the disregard itself, simultaneously with all and everything, with all the works and duties and responsibilities. Disregard, even the disregard itself, suffering in the way without suffering. Tell them, disregard, even the disregard itself, you are far away from COVID. It will not be contagious naturally. Disregard only, uninvolved, even within uninvolved itself, might simultaneously, together with works and responsibilities, it will be the purification of extinction and emptiness. This is protecting without protection, controlling without control. Automatically, working will be without attachment. There are many realms of existence. Humans or non-humans are all the same. This is the land that is special land. If you going out from here, if you don't remind yourself well with the non-attachment, with the essence, you'll be in trouble. Disregard, even the disregard itself well, simultaneously with every step that you move, every movements, work, coming, going, disregard even the disregard itself simultaneously with it, so that there will be purification of extinction. Otherwise, there will be only karma. We have to purify simultaneously with the extinction, with all the works that is formed up. All the works, the so-called responsibility is the karma that is formed up. So you need to purify to the extinction simultaneously. Don't let it become solely karma. Being deluded to do the work, you will just continue with delusion in the work, unable to end, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself simultaneously with responsibilities, with the form up of the work. The duties is the form of thing that is temporary. Actually, you don't have any duties at all, but it's formed up by karmic relations. It becomes duty, temporary duty. Actually, there is no such a thing because anicca formed up is bygone in itself at all times. Suffering also bygone at all times in itself. There is no such a thing as liberation of suffering. No, doesn't exist. But whenever you are falling into giving involvement and significance, it becomes karmic difficulties with the anicca, with the suffering. It's bygone, but you are not bygone with it. In truth, there is no need to be bound or to be free in whatever ways, because everything is in the state of anicca, tukkhaṃ, anatta, is bygone in itself. So listen to something that is uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself as it is, so that when you listen, there will be no strange things. Trying to suffer, to not suffer, to be bound, to be free, is not normal. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, will purify the attempt to be bound, to be involved or not involved. All the responsibilities that is temporarily formed up, you have to purify it at the same time. Disregard, even the disregard itself simultaneously with the works and responsibilities. Even personal routines, the so-called personal. Disregard, even the disregard itself simultaneously with your own routine. Each time, just uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, purify to the emptiness altogether. Don't let the routine, which is the kind of formed up temporary karma. Whatever you do, your personal routine, purify it simultaneously. It's just the action that is of karma. Why not purify to the extinction simultaneously? Purify all routines, all activities, personally or as a whole. Otherwise, it will become karmic habits in this way and that way. It will not be bygone. Disregard, even the disregard itself, well with it. It will purify all types of habits for you. The more lifetime we share, the more bondage we have among one another. So each time that we are born, we have to purify our karmic connection or our karmic bondage at the same time. within oneself, within all things. They are our habits and traits that is binding through our seeing and knowing. So disregard, even the disregard itself simultaneously with the internal and the external, so that it will not just become karma, purified to the extinction and emptiness simultaneously. Mai, non-attached, if not, is unending. Mai, even Mai itself, non-attached, even to the non-attachment itself, so that it will give ending to samsara. Wherever you go to bless, you have to use this essence. Not to be obsessed, to use knowing, mindfulness, concentration, using the mind and Dharma to form up for blessing. That is not blessing. It's impossible to bless. There's only contacts and clashes. Use that which is not the mind or Dharma, that which is not even know itself. Then it will be emptiness that purifies altogether. That's the blessing. Blessing everywhere in such a way, there will be purification everywhere all the same with this essence. Work, responsibility, no exception, all realms of existence. Disregard, even the disregard itself simultaneously. Extinction, purifying simultaneously with the responsibility and duties. It will affect with the purification. It's the blessing that is automatic.